In this tutorial, we'll learn how to digitize this bird image. First, we'll import our photo. We can drag or drop the photo onto the canvas, or if it's already in the image library, just click on it. We'll center it within the hoop. We're going to digitize the bird's legs and eye with satin stitches, so we have to make sure that all the stitches will be longer than 1.5 millimeters. We measure with the ruler tool. The eye is big enough, but the ankles are too small. We're going to need to scale up the legs so they're big enough. We can trace our photo and it'll split it out into many shapes. We've reduced the opacity of the bird so we can see all of the edges more clearly. We'll select the legs. When we select both shapes, we can go to the Info tab and use the size box to adjust the size. We'll increase the width. The width shows the size of the bounding box, and when we increase the size, it increases the size of the shapes inside. Now we'll reposition the legs so that they are the right distance from each other. We use the measurement tool to make sure they're big enough. Next, we have to trim off the top of the legs because they'll overlap too much with the body. We can use the cut tool to do that. We'll just cut them so they're a little shorter. Then we're going to select the new shapes from the top of the leg and we'll delete them. We're going to split the legs into sections so that the satin stitches from the fill can run in a single direction across each section and doesn't need to change directions. We'll overlap the bottom of the leg slightly onto the top of the foot to compensate for the push-pull effect. Tracing photos sometimes produces too many points, which causes small artifacts. We can just delete points to clear that up. Now we're going to do the same thing for the other leg. Next, we're going to fill these shapes that we've created with satin. Turn on the automatic preview so it shows up immediately. We're going to set a stitch angle. You use the W key to start that. Satin stitches will follow the direction of the stitch guide that we add. Next, we add a center walk underlay. You can use the player view to show exactly how the stitches will be laid out. We'll choose russet brown for the feet. We'll do the same thing for the leg. We'll set the stitch angle to follow the leg horizontally. We notice that these missing stitches can happen when some stitches are too short. So we'll try to find an angle that allows all the stitches to be above the minimum length, but ultimately it's too hard, so we'll just make the legs bigger. We'll select both legs and just scale them up a bit, and then try again. Now we have stitches that are the right size. Choose our matching brown, add our center walk underlay, and then click generate. We set the stop point of the foot near the top, close to the start of the left leg. We're going to rearrange the order of the shapes. So the left foot happens first, then the left leg, and then the right leg, and finally the right foot. The stitches will stop at the stop point. It looks like there's too much overlap between the leg and the foot, so we'll trim some of it off. We put the start point at the bottom of the leg and the stop point at the top of the leg. We can connect the start point of the leg and the stop point of the foot with stitches because the connecting line between the foot and the leg will be underneath the leg. Now we'll do the same thing for the right leg. We'll start by trimming the leg because we already know it's too long. Then we'll add our fill from the top to the bottom of the leg. Next, we'll fill the foot. We're going to change all of our travels to stitch because they'll all be covered either by the white part of the body or by the leg. The blue connecting line will be underneath the white part of the body. Next, we'll move on to the blue part of the bird, the wings. We only want to work with the blue part, which is the wings, so we'll duplicate the white body and add it as a whole to remove it from the layer with the wings. Some extra pieces were added, so we'll trim them away. And we'll remove these extra points near the tail feathers. We'll fill the wings with tatami fill. We'll choose a light blue. Sky blue looks closer to our image, and we'll change the pattern. Next, we'll show how to edit a pattern. When you edit a pattern, it brings up these sliders, which are even with where the needle points will be on the pattern. You can slide them in or out to move where the needle points are. You can also use the patterns that are built in. We'll stick with wave 6. We'll add a loose tatami underlay. And we'll make the wings slightly bigger than the image to allow for push-pull compensation. We'll check in the player to make sure the feathers are filled the way we want it to. We'll group all of the shapes in the legs into one folder so that they're easy to move around together. And we'll move that folder above the other layers. You can name it legs. Now we'll move on to the main body of the bird. We'll make it white and we're going to fill it. The eye hole is missing. We don't have a hole for the eye, so we'll add that by duplicating. We'll select the small circle and the bigger circle. We'll align them so that their centers are aligned. Then we'll use the smaller circle for the hole to allow for push-pull compensation. Notice our fill went away when we added the hole. We can add it back. We'll add our underlay. With this stitch angle, you can see some stitches are removed because they're below the minimum stitch length. That leaves gaps in the body section of the bird. We'll change the stitch angle so that all the stitches are longer than 1.5 millimeters. The orange lines are jump stitches. This shape shouldn't need any jump stitches. So we'll keep playing with the stitch angle until we find one that doesn't result in any jump stitches. Future versions of this algorithm may fix jump stitches, may result in fewer jump stitches. Looks like this angle doesn't have any jump stitches. The summary preview still says we have 3 jump stitches, even though we can see that there aren't any. We'll fix that in a future update. Next, we'll move on to the beak. We make the beak slightly bigger for push-pull compensation. We'll fill the beak with satin fill. And we'll set the stitch angle to look as natural as possible. Add our underlay. We'll change the color and move on to the eye. We'll connect the beak and the eye with a jump stitch. You can check the colors view to confirm the color count and stitch order. Now we're ready to save and export our design. You can save your design to the cloud. It'll save itself locally, but that can delete itself over time, so it's best to save to the cloud. Now we'll export it as a PES file, and we're ready to embroider. Embrowser is free to use. Subscribe for more Embrowser tutorials.